I also read my namesake, Catherine Maher, was head of NPR, and, she said, "We're completely unbiased. Give me a break, lady." I mean, they're crazy far left.
Bill Maher didn't hold back when he turned his spotlight on NPR, and the resulting clash was both hilarious and fiery. While NPR has long been regarded as a neutral source of news, committed to delivering stories without favoritism or slant, Maher highlighted how the reality on display seemed anything but impartial.
If you look on the right side, Jamie, where it says the truth is a distraction from getting things done, that is such a Orwellian thing to say. Click on that just so you can hear her say this, because it's so bananas that someone would say this out loud and not think it's...
One of the most significant differences, critical for moving from polarization to productivity, is that the Wikipedians who write these articles aren't actually focused on finding the truth.
Instead of maintaining a careful balance, NPR seemed to lean toward Maher's perspective, adding an unexpected twist to the exchange. But even with the outlet appearing to be on his side, Maher refused to ease up. Staying true to his style, he went after NPR with sharp precision, showing no mercy.
Oh, no.
They're working for something that's a little bit more attainable, which is the best of what we can know right now. And after 7 years there, I actually believe that they're onto something. That for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth isn't necessarily the best place to start. In fact, I think our reverence for the truth might have become.
The result was a takedown that left a lasting impression, burning bright in its intensity. Maher called out the network for failing to uphold the very responsibility it claimed to champion: unbiased reporting. It was a fiery performance that once again proved why his commentary consistently provokes both laughter and reflection.
The heads of NPR and PBS testified before Congress this week amid accusations of liberal bias. Should the government continue to send taxpayer dollars to public broadcasters? Well, a little background here. I mean, they've been after them the Republicans have wanted to get rid of PBS for as long as I can remember. This crowd will probably do it. I mean, I also read my namesake, Catherine Maher, was head of NPR, and, she said, "We're completely unbiased. Give me a break, lady." I mean, they're crazy far left.
Bill Maher didn't mince words when he took aim at NPR and PBS, accusing them of sitting firmly on the far left. While their executives may deny it, the evidence he pointed to is hard to ignore. In April 2024, NPR senior editor Yuri Berliner publicly admitted that the network had fully embraced a progressive agenda. Hardly a conservative talking point, but an insider's revelation. Things only worsened when NPR CEO Catherine Maher later acknowledged that they had failed to cover the Hunter Biden laptop story when it truly mattered, raising concerns of selective reporting. By 2025, even Congress was stepping in, questioning NPR and PBS over their relentless focus on race, gender, and identity politics. The claim of neutrality and balance seemed far from reality, and Maher didn't hesitate to call them out. His critique was nothing short of scorching.
I think we're past the age, really, where the government, first of all, why do we need to subsidize? Why can't we have outlets like this? And we're so polarized. These outlets became popular at a time when Republicans and Democrats didn't hate each other and weren't at each other's throats and didn't think each other was an existential threat. In that world, you can't have places like this, I think, anymore. They have to be private.
I have to admit, I find myself siding with Maher on this point. Think about it. PBS and NPR receive a significant portion of their funding from the government, which naturally opens the door to political influence. Any administration, whether left or right, has the potential to quietly steer the narrative in its own favor. That's a dangerous setup, because what's supposed to be unbiased reporting can easily slip into state-approved messaging. And let's be honest, once a media outlet becomes dependent on government support, it's only a matter of time before that influence begins to look a lot like propaganda. Anyway, let's roll the clip.
I love NPR. I listen to NPR almost every day, have since 1975 when my parents used to play it in our Chevrolet Caprice when I was like 9 years old. I love it for its point of view, but since 2020 it has no longer been general. I remember in 2021, my then 9-year-old asked me, she said, "Daddy, why is it that NPR is always playing the same thing?" And I said, "What do you mean the same thing?" And I swear she said, now she doesn't have a vocabulary, but she said, "It's always about how somebody can't do something." And that what she was getting at was that. I wouldn't have said that about the NPR that I knew back in the day, and I wouldn't have said it 10 years ago, but that is what it is now.
I've loved NPR since childhood, listening daily since the mid-70s. But since 2020, it feels different. Less general, more repetitive. Even my 9-year-old noticed in 2021, asking why NPR always seems to focus on the same themes of limitation and struggle. It's not the NPR I grew up with, or even the one I knew a decade ago.
The fact that the government was funding NPR is crazy.
Yeah.
Like this, you can't have a completely biased, one-sided media organization that's funded by the government and taxpayers. That's crazy. And they went over all the amount of people that were on NPR that were Democrats, and it's 100%.
Yeah.
It's like out of 87 people, it's 100%.
So, look at the New York Times.
Yeah.
I mean, so that none of that should be a surprise to anybody who's
But the New York Times is at
paying
least
half
a
of money.
privately funded company.
Right,
I mean,
right.
it's like the NPR relied on tax money,
Yeah.
and there's this giant outrage that the government's going to defund.
I'm with Maher on this. Leading up to the election, NPR zeroed in on Trump, replaying and dissecting his every slip. Even their own editor admitted listeners complained about the overload. Instead of balanced reporting, it often felt like amplifying missteps to sway opinion. And it worked.
At the end of the day, the reality is the internet exists,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
don't need. You don't need to publicly fund something that's clearly biased
Right.
when the internet exists.
Right.
You can get whatever you want. If you want to just absorb and consume only left-wing media, there's so much available.
Right.
You can go find it. But our tax dollars should not be going to that.
No.
That's pretty wild when you think about it. The Democrats essentially tilted the playing field, with 80% of NPR's newsroom made up of their own. And this isn't a private outlet openly flying a political flag. It's partly funded by taxpayers like you and me. With that kind of support, the bare minimum should have been balance. A simple 50-50 split between Democrats and Republicans would at least provide a variety of perspectives. Instead, what we get is an echo chamber dominated by one side, leaving the other mostly shut out. That doesn't just skew reporting, it erodes public trust in journalism. Maher calling it out only underscored how deep this imbalance really runs.
That's fantastic.
As far as the accusations that we're biased, I would stand up and say, please show me a story that concerns you, because we want to know and we want to bring that conversation back to our newsroom.
And then all this fat phobia, it's racist past and present. Some white people may choose thumbs up because it feels neutral, but some academics argue that opting out, what does that mean? Thumbs up signals lax awareness about white privilege, akin to society associating whiteness with being raceless. What?
God.
What does that mean?
Or how about how racism became a marketing tool for country music?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
God.
Today, the internet puts news everywhere, on your phone, tablet, or even a cheap laptop. You're no longer stuck with government-funded outlets or legacy media gatekeepers. Instead, you can access independent sources, compare coverage, and form your own conclusions. Sure, there's noise to sort through, but with discernment, real reporting and genuine perspectives are out there.
You look on the right side, Jamie, where it says the truth is a distraction from getting things done. That is such a fucking Orwellian thing to say. Click on that just so you can hear her say this, because it's so bananas that someone would say this out loud and not think it's...
One of the most significant differences, critical for moving from polarization to productivity, is that the Wikipedians who write these articles aren't actually focused on finding the truth.
Oh, no.
They're working for something that's a little bit more attainable, which is the best of what we can know right now.
PR claims neutrality, but their coverage tells a different story. Democratic narratives dominate, while Republican-leaning stories are buried or framed skeptically. The pattern feels intentional. So, when Trump calls for defunding NPR and PBS, it isn't baseless. If taxpayer money is funding them, the public deserves balance, not bias.
And after 7 years there, I actually believe that they're onto something. That for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth isn't necessarily the best place to start. In fact, I think our reverence for the truth might have become
What?
a bit of a distraction that is preventing us from finding consensus and getting important things done.
What?
Oh my
Wow.
God. That's fantastic.
At its core, NPR has rarely been about delivering raw, unfiltered truth. Instead, it often works to carefully shape consensus, framing stories in ways that guide audiences toward a preferred conclusion. And the biggest winners in that setup are the Democrats, who have effectively turned NPR into a megaphone for progressive talking points.
It's time for the media to admit that they blew the whole thing way out of proportion, because as always with media these days, they don't cover what's most important, just what's most fun to watch. There are 15.2 million college students in the U.S., and 2,300 have been arrested. That's 1/67th of 1%, and half of the ones in New York weren't even students. But we were given the false impression that these protesters are the voice of their generation, having found a cause for which they were willing to go to the tents and to the barricades. Oh, please, these kids are more violent when their team wins a championship.
From cultural issues to policy debates, NPR consistently pushes narratives that align with the left's playbook. Alternative perspectives are often dismissed or ignored, making it feel less like journalism and more like subtle indoctrination, wrapped in the credibility of a publicly funded outlet. Critics say the network has shifted from being a watchdog for the people to a tool for the woke, and Bill Maher called it out plainly. That's it for today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.